Hello, this is my screen recording for how I have mixed my track for my band that I chose. Gonna be running through everything I've done to mix this track to how I think sounds best. So starting off with the drums, which I've grouped and sent them to a bus, and basically I didn't end up using the group really much. I didn't think there was anything, well, at least for me, as like a whole group, to change to the drums that made it sound better than what I had already done to them separately. So starting off with the kick, I thought by itself it sounded quite not much bass at all, and I wasn't happy with, like, I didn't think it was really clicky enough. I wanted it to be more of a click, so I upped the bottom end a little bit to give it a bit more bass, and upped the high end to add a bit more of that sort of click that I wanted. And whoops, here I took out this mid frequency because with this in, I think, yeah, I don't know, something's just really, really off in my opinion, and I was messing around with the frequencies, and I think taking out some of these mids just here, sort of low mids, really hits the sweet spot for me. Like, it's got a nice bit of bass. It doesn't sound too, like, it's not filling up the rest of the mix with that chunk in the mids. The snare top and bottom, I messed around with quite a bit, playing with both, obviously, because it's two different mics. The snare top, I sort of went for, well, I don't know really, to be honest. I really messed around. Oh yeah, also I put a compressor on the kick as well, just so it levels out the volumes from each kick that she does. The snare, I put a bit of reverb on the top snare. I didn't put any on the bottom, because the bottom I sort of used as, yeah, more of like a high end capture, because it had that like high end snare sound, where the top one has more of like like the top captures much more of like a full sound of the snare. So EQ, I took out a little bit at the low end of that because I thought it was a bit bassy, and once again I just messed around with the frequencies a little bit here, and just really listened to what I think sounded best. Like, I think that like snap of the snare up in these frequencies needed to be lifted a little bit. Another compressor on that just to level out all of the volume throughout for how she hits it, and a noise gate as well, because there was a lot of spill in the background of this one, so I just put a noise gate on it to stop a lot of just the unwanted audio in between the snare hits. And yeah, the snare bottom, I took out all the bottom end because we've got that in the top one. Otherwise, if we had both with bottom end, it would be a bit too much and would sound bad with like the kick and the bass. And a bit of reverb on the snare top as well. Never hurts anyone. Just to, yeah, reverb makes it sound a bit more full. The toms, honestly, I think they all sounded pretty good as they were. I thought they could all do with a bit more bass in them, because I think this track lacked a bit of bass, so I thought toms, I'll just up the bass, and that's it. I left it at that. The overheads, also the toms I panned in all different directions. So high tom I did 38 to the right, mid tom I did 15 to the left, and floor tom I did 47 to the left, just just to add a bit more of a stereo sounding track. So it's not so centered. The overheads, I panned one all the way to the left and one all the way to the right. Overheads was a lot of messing about. I really wanted to capture like the high end of the cymbals in this. Because mainly I was listening to the cymbals and the overheads and the hi-hat. So I wanted to take all the low end out of the overheads and keep some of it in one of them, because there's some low end there that you want to capture. But really, and then a load of reverb on both of them, once again to bring a more full sounding track. And boosted some of the highs and taken out some horrible frequencies that were in here. Like here you can really hear the toms, so I really messed about with the EQ, so the toms like weren't heard as much. The ribbon room mic I didn't use because I thought it sounded awful. Bass, there was a few mistakes, so I ended up chopping it a tiny bit and filling in for a couple of other parts that he got right, so that there wasn't any mistakes in the bass. I thought it really lacked the low end frequency, so I upped that a little bit. And I thought the way he's playing it slapped, so he's slapping the strings, which is quite sharp, like in the high end. So I brought that down a little bit, but not getting rid of the slap sound. And then of course I really need a compressor on this because the volumes are absolutely all over the place. So that just really levels it out. And I thought that sounded really good, basically. Come down to, this is one of the guitars that I panned all the way to the left. And this one, I've just added some reverb. Not too much, but just to fill it a little bit again, because there was quite a lot of gaps in his playing, and it sounded really, really like dry. So a nice chunk of reverb, and then EQ, I just took out some of the mid because it was really piercing like through the mix, this guitar in particular. And the same goes for this, which is pretty much the same thing, but I've panned this one to the right, and I've done similar things with the EQ on this one. But once again, these guitars, I just wanted a really more stereo sound. So I panned one to the left, one to the right. And they're pretty much the same. But I think that they really fit well together. With this one, I boosted the high, like just the top high end a little bit. Because I still wanted that, like, I can't really think of the word for it, but it's just a tone that you want to hear in the mix, especially with this guitar in particular. This was another one of the guitars that I just didn't do anything to because I thought it sounded absolutely fine like that. I thought it sounded really well there, except I've just panned it to the right a little bit because I wanted to, once again, make the track sound a bit more stereo. As far as that goes for the guitars, the solo at the end, I just did the same. I added a lot more reverb onto it to make it stand out a little more, and I made it a little bit louder as well. Put a compressor on it, and a lot of reverb, and did the same thing with the EQ. Took out some of these mid frequencies because it was really, really piercing. And then finally the vocals. With CC's vocals, I took out all the low end so it didn't clash with anything else. In fact, I could probably have put a little bit more of that in because the track doesn't have much low end, but once again, I took a lot of that out. Boosted some of our high frequencies because I wanted to hear more of like a really crisp sound rather than something muffled. Even though it was a really good mic, so it didn't need much tweaking. I thought it sounded pretty good, to be honest. I've got a compressor on it and a multipressor, which is specific to the frequencies, and then some reverb, but not too much reverb, because I was told feedback from the band that I put too much on. So a little bit of reverb on that, just once again to fill it out a bit more. And then her like dubs, basically just left them dry because I thought they sat really well with the vocals. And I think reverb on this would have just been a bit too much, and then I just cut some of the low ends out on this one. And then finally, Grace's vocals. I did exactly the same as what I did to Cece's vocals, except I panned Grace's a tiny bit to the right, so that they were set from Cece's, which obviously are the main vocals. Cece's are the main ones, and Grace's I just put to the right a little bit just to tell apart. But yeah, in terms of mixing the track, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's everything. Pretty sure I haven't forgotten anything. Yeah, so that's all of that. Thank you.